So after Cambyses, son of Cyrus the Great, had conquered Egypt, he turned his attention to another great empire in the region, and that is Ethiopia. And there was nothing that Ethiopians did to him really, but maybe this was just an ego thing for him. He just wanted to conquer another great empire, and so he had planned to attack not only Ethiopia, but he was also planning to attack Carthage, which was an empire in what we know today as Libya, maybe in Tunisia. It was an empire that was founded by Phoenicians. This is a tribe of people who came from what is called now the Levant region, which is Jordan, Israel, that region. So that tribe, they were very good um, business people. They traveled, they were very good with ships. They carried goods from one region to another, mostly through the Atlantic, not the Atlantic, the Mediterranean Sea. So some of them had moved from the Levant and they had established the Carthage in North Africa in what we know today as Libya. So Cambyses had the intention of attacking Carthage. He had the intention of attacking another small empire called Ammonia, which I found out that was also located somewhere in the Levant. But he was the major, his much of his focus was in Ethiopia. Indeed, he had planned to just send an army to Carthage and send an army to Ammonia. Now, he never got to send an army to Carthage for a reason. And that's because a significant section of his army was composed of Phoenicians. Now, these Phoenicians were from the Levant, but of course they were relatives of the Phoenicians in Carthage. And the Phoenicians were uncomfortable being made to fight their own kind of like brothers. And Cambyses couldn't force them because he relied on them a lot, especially when it came to the sea war. Like they were his experts when it came to fighting in sea and using ships. And so he was willing to accept what they were telling him about not attacking Carthage, so he didn't get to do that. But he did send a small army to attack Ammonia. Now, but this video is about going to Ethiopia. So he himself had planned to lead an army to Ethiopia. But before he could do that, he decided another reason, he was also curious about a few things he had heard about Ethiopia. And one of those things is something that was talked about a lot. It's something called the Table of the Sun. Now, the Table of the Sun was this place in Ethiopia where Herodotus says it was the king and his people who took cooked meat at night and placed it there. So any Ethiopian who felt like they needed to eat, they would just go to that place during the day and eat their food. So it was a story that had spread to other places of the world, that there was this place in Ethiopia known as the Table of the Sun, where people would go and they will find cooked meat and they will eat their food. So Cambyses also wanted to find out whether this was really true. Now, before he could go attack, he had to send some people to do some kind of surveillance. Now, he decided to use a group of people. Herodotus calls them the Ethiopagi. Turns out it was an ethnic group of people who were really good with geography. So these people lived in Levantine in Egypt, and they also understood the Ethiopian language, or the language that was spoken in Ethiopia. So that would make it easy for them to go and collect some information about Ethiopia and then bring it to Cambyses, and then Cambyses will use this information to plan his attack. Now, I need also to point out that Herodotus describes Ethiopians as the tallest people in the world, in the ancient world, the world that Herodotus knew. And he also describes them as the most handsome people he had seen in the world. So I don't know how he came to that conclusion, but that's what he says. Now, these messengers that Cambyses was sending, he said he was sending them as messengers to the king of the Ethiopians, but they were just people doing surveillance. So it's not like they were going hiding and trying to collect information to do surveillance. No, they were just to go and present themselves as messengers from Cambyses, son of Cyrus the Great, and talk to the Ethiopian king as a way they were basically going to trick him. That was the plan. So Cambyses gave them some gifts that he wanted them to take to the king of Ethiopians, and the gifts included a purple robe, a gold chain for the neck, armlets. I think these are like things worn in the hand, and a box of myrrh and a cask of palm wine, maybe like some bottle of palm wine. That's what we call it. And these things were coming from Persia. So he sent them like, oh, they are messengers from Cambyses, and they come in peace, and they want friendship. Cambyses wants friendship with the Ethiopians. That's how they went to Ethiopia. And they were received by the Ethiopian king, who by then went by the name of Hereon. So Hereon welcomed them to his palace, and he listened to them. And they told him that the king of Persians had sent them with these gifts, and he means well. He wants peace, he wants friendship. And Hereon listened to them, and he wasn't a stupid man. He listened to them, and he told them, I know what you people are after. He told them, the king of the Persians sent you not with these gifts because he much desired to become my sworn friend. Nor is the account which ye give of yourself true. For ye are come to search out my kingdom. You've come to investigate. You've come to do surveillance. Also your king is not a just man. Cambyses is not a just man. For were he so, he had not coveted land which is not his own. If he was a just man, he would not covet land that is not his, nor bring slavery on people who never did him any wrong. And I think here Heron was talking about the Egyptians, like, your king is not a just man, like he's coveting what is not his, he's making people who have not done anything really to him to be slaves. And he goes on to say, he takes a bow, and he unstrung a bow. Yeah, a boy removes the string, and he tells them, bear him this bow. He gives it to them, and say, the king of the Ethiopians advises the king of the Persians, when the Persians can pull a bow of this strength thus easily, then let him come with an army of superior strength against the long-lived Ethiopians. Till then, let him thank the gods that they have not put it into the hearts of the sons of Ethiopians to covet countries which do not belong to them. So he gives these messengers a bow that he has unstrung. The way Herodotus describes this bow is like it was a really big bow, and it needed a lot of strength for someone to put the string on it. So the king of Ethiopians was telling these messengers, go tell Cambyses, the day when his soldiers can be able to put the string on this bow comfortably, then they should come face us. Otherwise, until then, they should just keep off coveting countries that do not belong to them. So that was the message that he was sending to Cambyses, that keep off other people's land. And then before he told this, or he let these messengers go back to Cambyses, he asked them about these gifts. It was like he was trying to kind of like show them that this is nonsense. Basically, he asked them about the gift. It's like, oh, so tell me about this robe. How is it made? What is it made of? Things like that. And then the messengers explained to him about the robe, the purple robe, which was one of the gifts. And the king of Ethiopians says that the men were deceitful, and their garments also. Like, you people are so deceitful, and your garment is also so deceitful. Then he asked them about the neck chain and the amulets, and they explain. And he laughed at them, and he's like, you know what? Ethiopians have much better ones. We can make better amulets and necklaces than what you brought us here. And then he asked them about the ma. They tell him, oh, how they made, blah blah blah. And he said, oh, this is the ma. Yeah, the ma you brought is also as deceitful as you people. And then he asked them about the wine. And now the wine is the only gift he appreciated of all these other things. And he asked them about the wine. They tell him how it's made, and he tests it, and he likes it, and he asks them, so what does your king eat? And they tell him about the wheat in Persia, how they make bread, blah blah blah. And he looks at them and he's like, how long does the king live after eating this? They are like, people in Persia live up to about 80 years. It's like, that does not surprise me. You cannot eat that like that and expect to live long. And he said, I even think the reason you people live up to 80 is because of this wine. Because it's the only thing I think you people can do better than us Ethiopians. And I think that's what kind of lengthens your lives. Otherwise, you people are eating terrible food, and that will make you not live long. And then now the messengers ask him, now they are interested to find out, so how long do Ethiopians live? And he tells them Ethiopians live 120 years and even longer than that. And that's because he tells them that we eat boiled flesh and drink milk, a lot of it. And because of that, we live very long. And then he takes them to a fountain. This fountain had water that Herodotus describes as the water was so weak, and that's because nothing could really float on it. Everything just sank to the bottom. Everything that was put there, even the things that usually float on water. So these people wash themselves with this water, and they realize their skin becomes so smooth, nice, looking nice, and they conclude that it must be the water that makes the Ethiopians live longer. It's not the food, really, it's this water. Now, the king or his messengers, the king of the Ethiopians, take these messengers of Cambyses to their prison to look around, and they are surprised to find out that the prisoners are shackled in chains made of gold. I think his intention was to show them how rich Ethiopia was, that even the chains they used to hold their prisoners were made of gold, not copper. Gold was so in a large, it was in abundance, so that they could even use it to create chains to hold the prisoners. And they also took them to see whatever had interested Cambyses, and that is the table of the sun. And indeed they went there, they saw there is food everywhere, meat, boiled meat, and people would come during the day and eat, anybody who wanted to. The other thing they saw while there in Ethiopia is coffins made of crystal clear material. And these coffins were made in such a way that they would be sealed with the body inside, and the body is completely visible, but it seals inside this coffin. Now, Herodotus does not explain, or maybe he wasn't, because this is a story Herodotus was told. He didn't go to at this point, he had gone to Ethiopia, but not in this case. This is a story was told while in Egypt about how Cambyses came there and how Cambyses decided to go to Ethiopia and attack Ethiopians, and he sent this group of messengers who went, and they went through this experience. They took the gifts, and then they were taken through this tour of the city, or a city in Ethiopia, or maybe the country. Now, after seeing all this, the messengers came back to Egypt, to Cambyses, and they brought him everything they had been told. They told him they gave him they gave him a report of what they had collected from Ethiopia. Cambyses was so angry because it occurred to him that the Ethiopians had little regard for him. They didn't respect him, and he wanted to teach them a lesson. And so he almost immediately started going to attack Ethiopia. And at this point, part of his army had gone to Ammonia. Now he was remaining with, but it was a sizable army. Of course, the expedition to Carthage stopped because of the Phoenicians, who were part of his army, had said they were not ready to go and attack their own brothers. So he took whatever army was remaining. Herodotus tells us that, but the Greeks who were part of his army did not go with him. He doesn't tell us why that was the case. The Greeks stayed behind in Egypt, and Cambyses started traveling towards Ethiopia. Along the River Nile, of course, and at some parts he had to go through land. While on the way, his supplies, turns out the supplies were not enough to feed the army that he was leading, and the supplies kind of finished. They did not have enough to eat, and now they started surviving on wild animals and wild fruits and plants. They were killing animals on the way and eating wild fruits and whatever to survive. And that went on, and as they were traveling, Herodotus tells us, like, while they were like a fifth of the journey, they still had a long way to go to Ethiopia. They came across a land that was completely barren. There were no animals to kill. There were no plants to eat. It was completely barren. They didn't have food. And at this point, the soldiers, many soldiers started dying because of hunger, of course. And some of them started practicing cannibalism, eating the dead soldiers. And Cambyses, when he saw this, he realized that this mission was doomed, because if they are already dying from hunger, they are already very weak. What happens when they reach Ethiopia? They will not do anything really. They will just go there to be massacred. So he decided to turn around and went back to Egypt. He did lose a huge section of his army to hunger and disease, and he went back to Egypt, and he never went to attack Ethiopia.